into a little bit of the government's use of open source and even investing in doing the work yourselves. Like there are a lot of companies and organizations out there who say that we may or may not use open source. Sometimes they don't even know how much open source they are using. But investing back and giving anything back to the community, it seems like charity, overhead, additional cost. So they are not doing it sometimes with the notion of this costs too much money that we don't have. Did you ever run the numbers in terms of savings because of going down the path of using and relying on open source software and maintaining it, some of it maintaining it yourself, or well, investing in the maintenance of it. So have you ever run the numbers and is it consistently showing that, so to say, it's worth it?
When we did one of the big projects, and I probably can't give that much details, so it's a little confidential, that one. But like we did do it kind of like per project basis. So we would kind of like draft up how much, and especially when you look like maybe at financial institutions, a lot of their technology operates on mainframe. So by the time that you actually release yourself from the need of using mainframe and being able to go into either a cloud or x86 infrastructure, then there's a big cost reduction. So we kind of like used to do the exercise of, okay, running this technology for the next 3 years is going to cost this much. No, mainframe, licensing, maintenance team, because anyway you need somebody there to look after the technology, and especially when you're running mainframes, there's internal processes that need to be run every night, and end of the month and end of the year, and adjustments and all these kind of things. So we used to do kind of like that tally, and then we used to do the tally of the new technology. And also, how much is it going to cost to implement this open source solution? How many hours of development? How many support personnel are we going to need then? How much is going to be now the infrastructure? And the cost difference was incredible. Of course, then there would be a lot of the question of like, okay, well, we update the technology to a new license program. Okay, then let's do, instead of doing just current proposed, let's do the alternatives, and we would do the same exercise, like, okay, how much is it going to cost to implement? What's going to be the licensing? What's going to be the infrastructure? And the use of open source was a lot cheaper. But then if you tell me what the biggest benefit was for the government, it wasn't really the financial situation, but it was a lot about freedom. Because if you own the technology and you're not married to a license, and you just need to change your support partner, then you can do a whole new procurement and get rid of the one that you've got if you don't like him anymore. Because there was a lot of situations where these vendors that had been there for years, they control the agencies. And so just being able to get this freedom and this sovereignty and being autonomous, because now also because it's an open box, we can document all the technical information. We can have our technical manuals, we can have our user manuals, and then we can have our own people in the agencies that maybe they're not going to be the all-rounder that can do the whole work, but at least they're going to have knowledge of what they're operating with. And that, I think, was the biggest benefit that as a country, we started getting by impulsing the use of open source technology, because it wasn't only like the platforms, it was also the infrastructure. So we started migrating a lot of stuff into OpenStack, and started using Kubernetes and all these kind of like nouveau technologies that I don't know why we were not using anymore, which are not that nouveau. But that also had a very big implication, because instead of having these very expensive infrastructure contracts and having to buy and renew very expensive infrastructure, we had this flexibility. And then we also started getting this flexibility to move to the cloud. So actually there was a frame contract that was issued by the past administration where it made it a lot easier to hire cloud. And it was an open thing, so you could actually choose which one of the cloud providers you would like to work with. It wasn't married to any specific one. And also Infotech was able to create these relationships directly with them, so we could also provide those kind of services. So that was the opportunities that open source gave us, I think, were limitless. And there's a lot of work that, thanks to what was done in the last 6 years, the guys that are coming in now to do the next 6 years, there's a lot of stuff that they're going to be able to reuse, that they're going to be able to piggyback on, and make things a little bit easier and efficient, and keep on developing the digital transformation of Mexico, because I think we are one of those countries that we're big enough, and that we do need to be transforming, and especially because of the proximity that we have to the US and the collaboration that we have with a lot of countries, we can't fall back on technology, and we need to keep on developing. And it's also one of those things that in the country, like when they start seeing the federal government doing something, then the state governments start doing something about it. And then once the state government starts doing something, then the local governments start doing it. And so then before you know it, this digital transformation starts to trickle down, and we have a very big impact. And then private companies also have to start doing it. So it's kind of like a way to drive forward this ideology, and hopefully, like what we'll see in another 6 years is that there's a lot more of this open source technology, and that this kind of like government community keeps on growing, and that hopefully these kind of like blind spots where we're still not sure about how to work with other communities that we could really benefit from, they actually start being a little bit clearer, and there's a little more definitions. And then hopefully this can keep on going in Latin America and other places. And that we can be an example, I think, because I find it really interesting how like we are regulating towards open source, and then you look at another countries and they're actually discussing regulating against. So I don't know if we're going against the wave, or we're actually seeing something that they haven't realized as well. So that probably is a big question of how we can keep on this growth.